Alright, now we go as Great Zimbabwe, and this is what I found the cultural atlas I have. Great Zimbabwe, in the language of the local Sona people, means house of the chief. It refers to a large number of stone-walled enclosures that are found on the plateaus and hills of south-central Zimbabwe. This country, formerly Southern Rhodesia, and we'll learn about that later, now takes its name from them. The largest and most spectacular of these remains is known as Great Zimbabwe. The enclosures are in an area rich in gold and other metals. It seems that as early as 650, a centralized state began to develop. Its ruler was known as the Monam Utapa, and it prospered by raising crops and cattle. Later, the Sona became skilled miners and metalworkers, and sold much gold, copper, and ivory to Indian Ocean traders. Great Zimbabwe was most probably the Utapa's capital, and the center of the religious life of the people. It was built over a period of perhaps 400 years, but during the 16th century, for reasons that are not clear, the ruler and his court left Great Zimbabwe. Western African visit. Portuguese traders and soldiers wrote about the great stone ruins, and a German explorer, Karl Marx, visited them in 1871. He camped nearby for some months and became convinced that only outsiders, not the ancestors of the local Sona people, could have built such impressive walls. In 1891, Cecil Rhodes, the South African politician and imperialist, sent an English traveler, J.T. Bent, to study the ruins, and he also concluded that the builders had come from outside, or perhaps Phoenicians. White settlers in Rhodesia accepted this idea, and Rhodesia comes from Cecil Rhodes, who conquered the area. They dug among the ruins for treasure and took away objects they found there. An ancient ruins company was formed by Europeans to sell their plunder, and a great deal of damage was caused to the site. According to the PBS website that I have put up on the descriptions, even back in 1552, rumors of a great stone city in the heart of Africa were held by the Portuguese, and a very common belief was that it was built by King Solomon or the Queen of Sheba. And when these structures were finally discovered, they completely ignored the native people and would dig up the artifacts and destroy much of the archaeological evidence that existed. And their pursuit of proving the outside influence of Great Zimbabwe, origins of Great Zimbabwe. I've added a link to Wikipedia that has a quote from an archaeologist who was threatened with losing his job for telling the truth about Zimbabwe and its African origins. And the government of Rhodesia insisted on, keeping the lies of a non-African origin of Great Zimbabwe until the government was taken over by the black majority, and the nation renamed itself Zimbabwe in honor of the old empire, and to get rid of the old colonial name. So you can enjoy that if you want to. And I also provide a link to a video series. It's the closest thing to have the oral traditions of the people themselves who live around this region. The Limba people, who also claim to be one of the lost tribes of Israel, also have traditions of building great walled cities all over Africa. Oh, and I should also add, on the fall of Great Zimbabwe, there are two things I've found in various sources. Exhaustion of the land, the farmland not being able to produce enough food, so the people had to leave. And the fall of several African empires impeded trade because Great Zimbabwe existed in this region because of trade routes with other African nations. Alright, what you see here is how part of the king's residence will look like in the 1400s. Near the conical tower was probably a store for grain. The buttress walls, 16 feet thick at their base, was decorated with a zigzag pattern. The outer wall was 825 feet long and 32 feet in height. The expertly cut and laid stones, no mortar was used, showed the skill of the builders. This is the king's residence again, at the building at the top. Most of the ruins are walls of circular or oval enclosures, which seem never to have had roofs. Large boulders were incorporated in the walls. Smaller enclosures were probably for cattle, built next to thatched houses made of earth and poles. This website I found showed what the atlas had to say was wrong. According to this website, archaeologists have determined that the conical tower is completely solid. Its purpose remains unknown. Concerning the ruins, and on this website, built entirely of stone, those parts that survive, the ruins span 7.5 kilometers and cover a radius of 160 to 320 kilometers. The ruins can be broken down into three distinct architectural groups. They are known as the Hill Complex, the Valley Complex, and the famous Great Enclosure. Over 300 structures have been located so far in the Great Enclosure. So there you go, and feel free to check out the links and watch the video.